Welcome live to Firebird Stadium here on the campus of Lakota West High School. It's another edition of Tailgate at the Showdown as we get ready for tonight's game in the Skyline Chili Crosstown Showdown. Look, everybody got quiet for us there except for a few sections of the band. I am Tom Gamble along with Joe D. and Jeremy R. from Fox 19 Now Sports. Gentlemen, what a go! You couldn't ask for better weather. Week 8, huh? This is awesome, isn't it?
I was just saying before it's jacket weather because Jeremy and I like the fact it's jacket weather because we can actually dress the same because I wore a tie and he didn't. We had the coats on before, but
he apparently didn't get the memo, right?
Here's the thing, honey, I love you. The button up that I wanted to wear just wasn't clean. And listen, I should probably pitch in more on laundry, quite frankly, but it just wasn't clean, and so I decided to go with the company brand name shirt.
There you go.
And I knew you would dress kind of along with me here.
Yeah, we're
but
similar,
Joe D's
right?
just trying to one up us. It's fine.
Black goes with blue.
That's true.
Yeah,
it's all good. We got lots to get to tonight. Huge game here, the Battle of Lakota, visiting Lakota East, homestanding Lakota West, and this is big no matter what. I mean, you don't need anything else to really get riled up for this one. There'll be a packed house here at Lakota West. There are plenty of people already in the parking lots getting ready. We're going to hear from both bands, outstanding bands from both schools. We'll have the cheerleaders, the coaches, all that, but there's playoff implications here as well. Both are Division I, Region 4. Lakota West currently sitting 5-2 overall, number 5 in the region rankings, and Lakota East 4-3, number 8. So this is one of those, and you look down the stretch, still a lot of big games to be played in the GMC, a couple other ones tonight. But this not only is a big rivalry game, but this is one that both need to win.
This game is an onion. There are layers. You just keep pulling back on this game. And I quite honestly think both teams, just watching the high school landscape so far through 7 weeks, I think both teams are playoff teams. I think both teams look like playoff teams to me at this point. Lakota East probably has to win 2 of its final 3 to get into the playoffs. And right now you look at Lakota West and all of the other layers we want to talk about, that's fine. They want to end what Lakota East has been doing in the last couple of years, and also a chance to jump up and get a home game in the first round of the playoffs. If you get out of that 5 seed and get up to the 4, I understand that 4 teams that are ahead of them right now are all juggernauts in the area, but there is a chance if they run the table, they can get up there to that 4 seed.
Yeah, and I think, and you're talking about what are the actual physical rankings right now, Tom, but if you look at Joe Idle, we've talked about Joe Idle so much, he basically tells you where the team is based on points and who they played and how it all factors in. And what he says right now, if you're Lakota East fans, that Lakota East is 1 spot out in that 9th spot. And right above them is a team like Walnut Hills. You have Sycamore up there as well. And so if you're Lakota East and you're able to get this win tonight, obviously it speaks to that. And the playoff standings, they have a chance to get right into that conversation. And I do think, this is nothing against a team like Walnut Hills and Sycamore, who I've seen this year. I've also seen Lakota East a couple of times. I do think Lakota East is a better team. And so it would just be tough to see them lose a game like tonight, and then you talked about them being a playoff team, Joe, and then not get in over a team like a Walnut Hills or a Sycamore, who have had good seasons, decent seasons, but I don't think are a better team right now than Lakota East. So this is big for Lakota East tonight, and obviously big for Tom Bolden as the first-year head coach of Lakota West and trying to get the win back for the West side.
Well, I think when you look at Region 4, I think you're going to have Elder and St. Xavier, which are in 2 of the top 3 spots. I think you're going to have 6 GMC teams. The question is, which of the 6? If you look at the 18, and Jeremy, you mentioned it, probably Walnut Hills right now, and a lot can change. But if you look at where they sit today and also where they might wind up, depending on what they finished the last 3 weeks, I think that's what you're going to have. A lot of people did. There was great debate inside the 10-team GMC when they went from 7 games of a league schedule to 8. Some people said, no, we'll beat each other and eliminate one another. But the way it's shaken out this year, it doesn't look that way.
And the funny thing is, we sit here and we talk about this and we debate this, and a month from now we'll look back at this and say, oh, wow, it all worked out. It all kind of shook itself out. And I think it will. And you start talking about the teams in the GMC who will make the playoffs, and you start wondering what team from this conference can then advance out of this region. At this point, you still have to say, even though the 6 teams in the GMC might make 6 of the 8 spots, you still have to look at those 2 GCL schools as the 2 teams that you're targeting as most likely to come out of this region. And I don't think we've seen anything so far this season to prove that Elder, St. X aren't the 2 teams that should be 1-2. However the numbers shake out, that's fine. But when
I'll put Fairfield in there. Until they lose. They're number 1 currently in the region.
But I'll say
think,
this. I really don't know how good Fairfield is just yet.
Yeah.
I still think the jury's out. I know they're 7-0. I know the first
Right.
time in school history, and they had the star power with Tom McClain, who might be the best player not only in the city, but one of the best players in the entire state. But you start looking at what they've done, and some of the performances they've had haven't been great all 4 quarters, whereas we've seen what Elder can do. We've seen what St. X can do, not only against other teams, but against each other.
Well, we'll talk about that, and I'd be remiss if I didn't remind everyone, you can check this out live on Cincinnati.com, also live on Fox 19's Facebook Live, and their OTT networks. If you're an Amazon Fire and Roku subscriber, easy. Hit up the Fox 19 app and tell folks that it's designed for people here on site. They can listen on site, but it's also designed if you're heading out to a high school football game, and there are plenty of good ones around greater Cincinnati, northern Kentucky, southeast Indiana, and greater Dayton tonight. You can check it out. We'll be talking about some of those games. So that leads me into, you mentioned Fairfield. And that's the question. You know, Jason Krause has done a very good job with the Indians. And I think, quarterback play has gotten better. Jaton McClain, top-line player defensively. Their defensive front is really good. But I do think, and they've beaten a GCL team in the first round of the postseason recently, but I do think when you look, you still ask yourself, how good is Fairfield? Are they essentially Elder and St. X good? Do we know that yet?
Yeah.
And they're at Sycamore. They play Sycamore at Sycamore Stadium tonight.
Yeah.
And then everybody's pointing toward Week 10. Will that be finally the week that Coleraine loses a GMC game? Hasn't done so since 2008. That'll be at Fairfield. So I think we'll learn a lot in these final. If they beat Coleraine and wind up 10-0, maybe you got to take them really for, you got to.
Well, I mean, and one thing that I like, and it kind of what we're talking about lends itself to this, it's that it's very wide open this year. There have been years where it feels like we know 1 or 2 teams is going to absolutely dominate in the region and then get out of that region for. This year, I think, based on what we've talked about already, a lot of things can shake up. Let's just play out one scenario based on Fairfield being the 1 seed. Let's just say that Lakota West plays Coleraine. Somehow West beats Coleraine. Then they get Fairfield as the 1 seed. I can see West then beating Fairfield. I can see all these things playing out. Coleraine and Fairfield are going to meet in Week 10. We could see them again in the playoffs. It's tough to tell right now. And the only way you can kind of look at those transitive properties, right? What Coleraine did against St. X, how does Coleraine look against Fairfield in Week 10? It's tough to tell. We're going to learn a lot about Fairfield. From what I've seen from them a couple of times this year is, nothing short of what you have all seen, what you guys have seen and already know. Jaton McClain is a next-level player, and he
really
changes
good.
the game for Fairfield. But if you haven't seen them play, I would just tell you their defense is really good. They have a really good defensive scheme. They were able to shut down Princeton last week, a Princeton team who is I would say okay, maybe underachieving a little bit this year, but they demolished them in the second half, went on to win that game 37-13, and a lot of that is because Jaton McClain got loose quite a bit, but the defense, again, only giving up 13 points. I think that will be what sets them apart and what could set them apart as number 1 when we see them face Coleraine in Week 10.
I'll jump in here because it's been my stock line ever since watching Coleraine play last year in the state championship game. At some point, you have to have a curveball. At some point, you keep running fastball up the middle, up the middle, up the middle, and Coleraine did that over and over again, and it cost them the state championship because they could not throw the ball. You look at the 2 teams I talked about in the GCL, they have the curveball. They can throw and they can run.
Trouble with the curve.
They're balanced. I'm not sure Fairfield can do that. The quarterback has made some plays, but every time we've seen big plays in the passing game, it's a short pass.
Yeah, dump downs and screens.
Someone makes a big play from. And again, I know we're nitpicking at this point, and we're talking about teams here that love to play option football, and that's their identity, and it works. It wins games. But when you get to the point where you have to knock off the best teams in the state, Elder is one of the best teams in the state. St. X is one of the best teams in the state. Can you come with something besides just your fastball? You've got to have some kind of a change up, a change of speed, something to keep these teams off balance, and you got to score a lot of points to beat teams that good.
Well, and I think the question with Elder is their offense, their offensive front, really probably second to very few. Matthew Luby, their senior quarterback, running it, leads the GCL South in rushing, also throws the ball well, good touchdown to interception ratio. And Matthew Reevy, are you kidding me, at St. X? 20 TD passes, 2 interceptions. Liam Clifford, a junior, leads the GCL in receiving. Marshall Lang, the tight end, going to Northwestern. That win by St. X last week over that Clarkson North Football Academy, that's a team that only lost to Mentor by 13 and beat St. Ignatius. So, when you look at that, St. X has only lost by 3 at home, 2. Elder. So I think they're always well prepared because of the schedule. Tonight's a big one. Elder's at Winton Woods. They've lost 3 of the last 4 games to the Warriors. So I think you're going to find out more about Elder tonight. LaSalle at St. X. I mean, that schedule, it's not by accident that those teams are well prepared. When you only have 3 league games and you can virtually find no one else around the state to play you, that's why they're so well prepared come postseason.
And I don't want to sit up here and make this about the GCL. I understand where we are, but when you talk about Lakota West and you talk about Fairfield and you talk about Coleraine, the teams this year, we bring them up, we talk about them because that's the target. That's the target these teams are trying to get to.
And the coaches would tell you that, too.
They would say the exact same thing, and that's why we're talking about them. We are putting the teams in the GMC in that conversation with the teams from the GCL who aren't just the best teams in the region. They're also state contenders, even though I believe, and I've seen St. Ed's play twice, St. Ed's is on a different level this year.
Well, and throw Mentor in that same mix.
Yeah.
Because go back to week 1, they beat St. Ed's 29-28.
Impressive.
St. Ed's hasn't lost since. Those 2 teams, I think, right now, and they're in the AP State Division I rankings, 1 and 2. They're pretty darn good.
And back to your point, you were talking about Elder, and Joe, you talked about having to be dynamic in the playoffs to really get to that next level. It's the way Elder can beat you as well. I mean, Matthew Luby can throw it 4 times, run for 150 yards, and they can beat you that way. They can also beat you by throwing the ball, and that's one of the things. It is nitpicking, Joe, you're right, but it's because we have seen a lot of years where good GMC teams, I think of the Mason teams who have made the playoffs at 9-1, had really fantastic regular seasons. They get in the playoffs and they might win a playoff game, but you kind of get that sense that that might be it. It's because those teams aren't as dynamically prepared to beat a team like a St. X maybe this year or a Elder, whoever that might be. You've got to come with a lot of dynamic weapons to beat a team like that, and that's just the question right now. And we'll see if Fairfield can scheme something up when the time comes, or Coleraine, whoever it might be, but that remains to be seen.
All right, well, coming up at Tailgate at the Showdown, we got lots for you tonight between now and 6:45. Kickoff is 7 here at Firebird Stadium, Lakota East against Lakota West. We'll have the Lakota Band, which is one of the best anywhere, not just in Ohio. Lakota East Band, outstanding as well, both groups of cheerleaders. Tom Bolden will join us at about 5:30. Rick Haynes, the Lakota East coach, will be stopping by. And, you know, while it's a great rivalry, these guys are friends. They coached together back in the 2004 Coleraine High School Division I State Championship team. Scott Springer from Cincinnati.com. We might even have some very special guests coming by a little bit after 6:30. We'll tell you more about that coming up. And Scott Kaufman. He's not only the AD at Lakota West, he's on the OHSA Board of Directors. He'll join us as well. So lots to get to. Don't go anywhere. And I got a topic that I think is going to rile both of you up when we continue. But right now, let's turn it over to the Lakota West Marching Band at Tailgate at the Showdown. Tailgate at the Showdown here on the campus of Lakota West High School, getting ready for the Battle of Lakota, Lakota East, Lakota West. The West cheerleaders under the direction of Kayla Rogers, Andy Carr, and the Lakota West band, outstanding. The drum line there, quite a difference. The level, I can remember we had a Skyline Chili Crosstown Showdown back when we could use Nippert Stadium years ago, and I remember the West band was in the stands to play the national anthem across from the press box side. And I'm like, can they just continue playing? I mean, they sounded amazing. Obviously, they go around the country. They've been to the Rose Bowl parade and all that kind of stuff. And if you've never heard them, you need to check it out, and you'll know why. Yeah, it's not hard to tell.
It's a whole different ball game, and I've talked about with a lot of these GMC schools. The school that I went to was a country school, Central Ohio, around 800 total, the entire school. I walk on a campus like Mason or Lakota West, and I think this looks like my small college I went to. But the bands are just, I mean, this is, I'm a drummer. So tight. Y'all are so tight, so locked in. It is perfectly on beat. It is fantastic. And it sounds like one giant, unified, just booming sound from start to finish. It's fantastic.
Yeah, you may need to get over there and see, maybe this is a big challenge for you tonight, right?
It's great. It's fantastic.
He's Joe Danneman. He's Jeremy Rauch from Fox 19 Now Sports. I'm Tom Gamble. It's Tailgate at the Showdown. We're getting you ready for the East-West game. We've got a lot of Breeze feels great tonight. It's going to be – but if you're coming out to the game, make sure you prepare for later, because when the sun's out now, it feels awesome, but I guarantee you overnight it's going to be a little chilly. Now, final quarter tonight, you'll have the top three. But I want to go back to last week, and then I've got a topic that I think will rile both of you up.
Let's go.
But give me, first of all, last week, if you had one takeaway from last week's games, Joe, I think I know what yours is going to be, but let's have it.
I don't think it can be anything else than Cov-Cath is maybe better than we thought they were, or is LaSalle more of a pretender than we thought they were. I walked into that game, and a gentleman on the sideline said to me he thought LaSalle would beat Cov-Cath by 21 points.
I think that was, from people I talked to, that seemed to be the consensus.
By 21.
2 to 3. I heard 2 to 3 touchdowns from almost everyone. Now, bear in mind, they had never beaten LaSalle in 6 previous meetings.
Correct.
Cov-Cath was 0-7 against the GCL South since 2009. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I can understand that thought process a little bit, but we talked, and this isn't your same Cov-Cath.
Not physically.
Correct.
You talk about, yes, they've lost some skill position players. They don't have Casey McGinnis from last year's team. They don't have A.J. Mayer from 2 years ago. But what they have are next-level guys on their front line on offense and in their front seven on defense, including the best player in Kentucky, and Michael Mayer. And you always talk about great players aren't always great. They're just great when they have to be. Michael Mayer completely dominated that game last Friday night. You talk about two teams have a lot of talent, because LaSalle has Division I guys all over their field. I think they have 5 or 6 guys they're pinning as Division I players, but only one team had an All-American, and he made that much of a difference. He had a pick 6, he had a fumble recovery and a fumble forced, and he also scored a touchdown. Michael Mayer was the difference in that game, and I'll say this because we talked to Noel Rash at the Tailgate at the Showdown when Beechwood played at Dixie about a month ago. He pulled us aside, and we were talking about Northern Kentucky football, and it might be down this year, but he said Cov-Cath this year is better than they were 2 years ago when they had A.J. Mayer, and they went undefeated.
That's saying something.
And they and clocked everybody. And I said, how can you say that? Because the quarterback play isn't the same, and we know in football, especially at this level, quarterback play is such a difference maker. He said they're so big, they're so physical, and to me, that's how they lined up, and they beat a GCL team. Not just beat them, they dominated them, and that showed the weakness of LaSalle right now at this point is they really can't throw the ball. They have 2 running backs who are dynamic. They have a quarterback who's like a 3rd running back, but they cannot make plays.
He's a first-year starter as a junior, so, I mean, the competition, well, tonight you'll find out.
Yes,
will they be able to run it tonight? Will he be able to throw it, Zach Branham? And I think you're right, Joe. I think Michael Mayer defensively is a difference maker, too. 28 straight regular season wins. I mean, that's pretty impressive, and I think, Jeremy, your takeaway from last week, do you have one that's different, or would it be the same one?
It's a couple of takeaways. One of them, I'll spin off of Joe's. It led us to actually start debating this. I think it was on the show. Joe was on our morning sports for the next day. I was wondering, is Cov-Cath the best team in Kentucky? It changed from that to, is Cov-Cath the best team in the Tri-State? Now, that's a good debate, because I'd love to see Cov-Cath play Elder or St. X, and I think that's who you would put them up against. I don't know that question was answered, but now it's a conversation. That was not a conversation I was having inside of my head before that game, and now that's my curiosity is, wow, is Cov-Cath one of the best teams, or maybe the best team in the Tri-State? My other takeaway is not really a takeaway specifically from last week. It is a season-long takeaway, and this is from some people I've talked to around Moeller, who went to Moeller, who are curious what's happening there. It was another gigantic flop last week for Moeller. Now, there's been a lot of that this year, but the way it continues to happen just makes me curious. Does Moeller go in a different direction sooner than later with their head coach? I know that's tough. I know it's been 1 year. I know they've had some changeover. But Moeller has slowly been on this downward decline. Not drastically. It's kind of been like a slow bleed for years now. And with a year like this, again, this is a season-long thing for Moeller. I'm curious now if they're starting to really think about it. Maybe they already have begun those discussions internally if they do need to go in a new direction. Because there are a lot of people unhappy with how the season has played out. And that's, again, you can lose –
correct.
And you can lose with a little bit of class or by making it look competitive. The Bengals do it all the time. Or you can lose the way they've lost a lot this year.
Well, three-time shutout. They've only scored in double digits once in their only win, and it was 42-0 at halftime last week. We were at that game. That was a showdown game at the Pit, and it was tough. Now, here's my topic to, I think, rile you guys up.
Okay.
Tonight at 8:30, Ohio State in Evanston, kicking off against Northwestern.
I'm riled.
Great story in the Toledo Blade this week talking about kind of the Friday night lights now being stolen, if you will, by college football. You got a $24.6 billion contract with the Big Ten. Tonight it's on Big Ten Network. This isn't the only Big Ten game on Friday night. There are lots of games, college games, around the country on Friday nights. Saw some comments from James Franklin, the Penn State coach. He didn't like it. Ryan Day, the Ohio State coach, said, we just kind of show up. They had a great interview with the Perrysburg athletic director talking about what a difference it makes to their budget. How if you're off, whatever number, 200 tickets, it could literally, and you multiply that by how many is, because tonight is their final home game, their senior night, all that.
Yeah.
And it really is very interesting. I know some high schools have even moved in the greater Columbus area, moved to Thursday. Some have moved kickoff times on Friday to 6 o'clock. I know for me, the purist, I love the Friday night high school, Saturday college, Sunday, well, at least in theory, they all used to, now you've got them almost every day of the week. I can't imagine you're happy about college football, especially, when you're asking people who are big Ohio State fans. Even the AD from Perrysburg said nobody's a bigger Ohio State fan than I am, but, I got my team tonight. I think it puts high schools in a very difficult predicament.
And it's not just this game. It's not just Ohio State playing Northwestern tonight. It was Central Florida against UC on a Friday night. Now, look, my question is, and take this rhetorically, and we'll come back to it. Who does it benefit to put the college football games on a Friday night? So keep that in the back of your mind as we continue the conversation. But you look just around here in the Cincinnati landscape, and we understand. And you start talking about local media markets and the attention that high school football gets, and you look at maybe the 5 or 6 biggest high school football markets media-wise in the country, Cincinnati's in that.
Correct.
Because I can tell you Cleveland doesn't do high school football the way we do.
No.
Columbus doesn't do high school football the way we do. There might be some people in Texas, absolutely Texas. There are cable stations that do 24/7 high school football. I get that. California, I'm telling you, the big cities in California don't do it like we do. So when you start talking about the media market and the attention that high school football gets in that market, and then you start splitting the entertainment value and the entertainment dollar where people can go. Tonight, Midnight Madness, Musketeer Madness and Xavier, they're doing that right during high school football. Again, you have a lot of people who went to games who are interested in whatever game they want to go to, who can't go to it because they want to go to Musketeer Madness or vice versa, they want to go to the other. I want to know who it benefits to put the games on Friday night, because they want to say, you want to get more eyeballs on having the game.
Checking accounts, when you look at a $24.6 billion, I mean, that's what it is. And speaking of that, you mentioned tonight, Tony Pike, who normally joins us here, the former UC Bearcats quarterback, he had to be at UC because tonight they're celebrating. Tomorrow they play Tulsa at 3:30, but tonight's the celebration of the 2009 Bearcats football team. They got a big dinner. But I will tell you, Jeremy, one local athletic director you mentioned about UC Central Florida, which got flexed to Friday night. The atmosphere on campus at Nippert Stadium at UC for that game was second to none.
Excellent.
I had a local high school AD say to me, we normally would have sold out our game. We did not. He pointed largely to that game, taking those fans and some going there that otherwise would have gone to the high school game.
It is tough, and you can make it sound like a small thing. It's just one Friday night. It's not a big deal for some of these high schools. They'll get their numbers up in other games. But you're right. The amount of revenue that you lose on a couple of hundred of fans.
Absolutely.
Fans, again, not just seats, not just tickets, but concessions, everything, parking if you have it. It's a big deal, and that's a real decision that people are going to have to make. There are a lot of Ohio State fans that I imagine, especially when I come up to this part of the Cincinnati area, you get around the 275 belt or north of that, there are a lot of Buckeye fans up here. And by the way, a lot of Buckeye fans in the Cincinnati area, our ratings say so as we see them when we get the ratings at Fox 19. So it's a big deal for a lot of people. Now, you can always decide. I mean, you can decide to DVR it, right? You can go watch the game like tonight, come to the games, get home around 9:30 or 10, be behind, or just decide to start watching, mid-late second quarter. You can make those decisions, but I just think it's tough. It is about TV dollars. It is about revenue with like the Big Ten Network and anything like that. It's why you see MAC football teams playing on a Tuesday night, which is crazy. It's bizarre. It's not suitable for the players themselves to go from a Saturday to a Tuesday sometimes even.
But that's my point. We're not talking about a MAC football team who needs extra exposure. We're talking about Ohio State. You could put Ohio State on the Big Ten Network on Saturday night. You're going to get the same number of people who want to watch Ohio State. But there was the same argument.
I mean, it's been, I think, a decade or so, Joe, where Ohio State randomly played on a Thursday night to open the season. I don't think it had ever been done. People went up in arms about it around Columbus. It didn't affect high school football as much, but you're right. To that point, Ohio State, a national brand like that, doesn't need that kind of exposure. So it is unique. Even Billy Price chimed in on Twitter. You mentioned the article. Billy Price now plays for the Bengals. He played at Ohio State. And he said, this is not – people were blaming the coaching staff. They were blaming the players at Ohio State. Right. Billy Price said, you don't understand. If Ryan Day had a choice and the players had a choice, they would want it to be on Saturday at 3:30, not on a Friday night. But TV kind of drives the medium. TV dollars do, I should say. It's unique to see them do that with an Ohio State. But back to your point, Joe, to push back a little bit, what the Big Ten Network is trying to do, or any network that gets a team like Ohio State, they are trying to make them primetime as many times as they can. If they can't do it on a Saturday night, like we saw most recently with Ohio State, put them on a Friday night against North. Make Ohio State primetime at all causes if they can.
Yeah, well, we don't have enough time to continue it. We could talk, I think, about this for a long, long time. And Ryan Day even said, I just get the schedule and I go where they tell me, I think Billy Price is correct. All right. When we continue, Tailgate at the Showdown live from Lakota West High School, getting ready for the Battle of Lakota, Lakota East, Lakota West. Tom Bolden, the head coach of the Firebirds, first year, off to a 5-2 start, will join us here. Also, Joe had a chance to come out, saw him at practice earlier this week. Great feature on how you can be a pretty darn good football player and also be pretty smart and test well. That's coming up too. And why not? We'll hear more from the Lakota West High School marching band. Not the entire band, but the leadership team. I want to thank Andrew Carr, the band director, for sending them out. And plenty of time to come out and join us tonight. It's Tailgate at the Showdown. We are live at Lakota West High School.
This is football practice at Lakota West High School. It's not perfect.
Better pitch.
Because practice isn't supposed to be. Practice, they say, makes perfect.
I told my mom, I was like, I think I can get it.
And that makes this football player,
I just had a good day, I think, on the test.
Practically the perfect student athlete.
Ended up getting a perfect score.
Lock again, lock again.
Locked in as a starting safety on a good high school football team, Truman Mason plays the game with the highest of IQs.
He's not real boastful about how intelligent he is. He is intelligent, confident.
A confident enough student who can intelligently teach his teammates.
If you're stacked and you see the motion come towards you.
Truman isn't just football smart.
I've coached a lot of bright kids. Kids have gone on to the Ivy League and played football and done great in school there and are doing great in the business world and all that, but I've never had a kid with a perfect score on the ACT.
Sent this letter for an achievement so significant and rare, his perfect score is in the top 0.2 of 1% of all test takers. But it's not as if the sun shined for just one day on this high school senior. Truman Mason is truly a talented teenager.
There's more to people than just, the data and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it feels pretty cool to be out here and be able to say that I got a perfect score on the ACT. But football and the ACT, I like football a lot more than I like the ACT.
In the huddle with his teammates, Truman pushes back on the attention. He'd rather pick up a helmet and jokingly pick on the highest ranked recruit on his football team.
Local 3-star gets manhandled by nerd.
But the joke over and the helmet now back on, it's back to his position and the constant pursuits of the football. for someone who understands the pursuit of perfection.
Yeah, there's moments of just kind of, reflection and being like, this is a pretty special thing, and it can take me far in terms of where I can get into college. But once you get into college, it's really about what you do there that really sets you apart from other people going on.
Such a successful run at Colerain High School, and this is your first year at Lakota West. How's the transition been? I know, whenever you're at a place that long and now you're here and you're number one and you're week 8, how's it been?
I'll tell you this. This is one of the greatest places to live, and here's why I know why. Westchester, I can't find a house. Every time I find one I want to buy, it's for sale 2 days later. So other than me still making the drive, it's been absolutely awesome. The students, the community, the faculty here at Lakota, it's been unbelievable how welcoming they've been for me.
Well, I'm just glad you're not pulling a Kerry Combs, right? The blow-up mattress in your office. I mean, you're still living in a residence, correct?
When I could get home, I do have the sleeper couch.
You do?
In the coach's office in there.
Right.
So whatever it takes.
What's it been like so far? I mean, you obviously taken over a program here. You've got them immediately contending for a playoff berth. You're in second place in the GMC, and you look up, it's Fairfield and Colerain, and then there's Lakota West. And I know important game tonight. You got important games the rest of the season, but you're in. I presume if somebody had said to you, 5-2. I know you want to be 7-0, but 5-2, week 8. We're in a playoff spot. You take that, right?
No, absolutely. And it's amazing. We're pretty banged up football team up front from the offensive line standpoint. We haven't had the same starting lineup yet in 7 games, and you've been nicked and bruised here and there, but I think we're yet to play our best game. So hopefully this stretch, these last 3 games, we can start putting some things together momentum-wise. Defense, we're playing lights out. And offense, I think we're going to get a little bit better each week. We're awful young, a little banged up, but we're going to find a way to make some things happen.
There are very few coaches who do big game football better than Tom Bolden. You've been in a lot of big games yourself in your time at Colerain and now here at Lakota West. This is your first chance in this rivalry against Lakota East. What have you heard about it? What are you expecting tonight?
Well, at some point I kept telling myself, Monday, I'm like, I guess there will be a football game played at some point Friday night with everything going on. But, from what I've heard, from the players telling me and the other coaches that were on staff that are still here and the community and the administration celebration and things like that. It's a big game. Think about this. I mean, those big, huge rivalry games when I was at Coleraine with St. X, same kind of deal, same kind of atmosphere, but that much more because these kids played together growing up, youth football and things like that, and then split when it came to high school. So they know each other. They follow each other very closely on social media, had played against each other, so things like that. It's truly what a neighborhood rivalry is all about.
Did you talk? I know you and Rick Haynes obviously coached together many years ago. You guys are friends. He's been at East for a lengthy period of time now. When you got this job, how much did you talk to him about what it's like coaching at one of the Lakotas, and have you guys had any conversations? Because obviously you'll be on opposite sidelines tonight. You're trying to snap in the series a 3-game losing streak. How much did you lean on Rick, maybe even before you took the job, and then certainly after you became the head coach here at West?
Well, like I said, even going back to when I was an assistant, I was on the headset with Rick for a lot of years, and yeah, he's the man. I owe him so much and everything that he's done for me and what I've learned from him. And when I was the head coach at Coleraine, and I would talk to him quite a bit, and then obviously, like you said, taking this job, he and I would talk, and I kind of leaned on him a little bit because it happened so quick, and he thought it was a great move for me, and I really appreciated him being honest with me and all that. I can tell you this. We haven't talked as much this week.
I figured that to be the
few
case.
Text conversation. We usually talk on the phone at least once a week, but this has been a few text messages back and forth this week. So it'll be really cool competing against your mentor.
And what's cool is your identity of football is really similar because you're defensive-based, option-based offense.
Yep.
And we had the conversation when you got the job here at Lakota West of what your identity might be. Will you be the same kind of team you were at Coleraine? You said we'll just kind of have to wait and see what I do.
Yeah.
Do you like the way the team looks as far as identity offensive-wise? Are you going to keep the option going forward here at Lakota West?
We're a little more multiple and a little different with it, but we're developing it each week and getting better and better. But what I do like you mentioned, we are defensive-based. And we're going to fly around and get to the ball. And even though I'm an offensive guy, the only one I told him is quarterback's the only one off limits. You need somebody, you take them. But I think we're getting better each week. We're finding that identity a little bit more offensively. I do know this: we are a heck of a lot tougher from a mental and physical standpoint, and that started back in January in the weight room and things like that. And I think that's what's shown. We're way more organized, way tougher, and I think that's what's helped us, so far in these 7 games.
You're watching Tailgate at the Showdown live from Lakota West. The big game tonight, Battle of Lakota East at Lakota West. I'm Tom Gamble. He's Joe Danneman from Fox 19 Sports. You can see this and many other highlights tonight on the final quarter. He would be first-year head football coach here at Lakota West, Tom Bolden, and of course you've got a son playing at UC.
Yeah.
You've got a son playing at Miami University, and now you've got a freshman playing quarterback right here at West. So you're no stranger to having sons and being involved with their football careers. But what has this been like for the youngest here for you at Lakota West?
Well, this one's been a little bit different because the other ones were linebackers, and then, obviously there's a lot of pressure on a linebacker calling the D and things like that. But we all know there's no pressure like that of a quarterback, and
well, especially with Dad being an offensive guy and a former quarterback, right?
There's no question about that. Although I look more like a linebacker or a nose guard now, but
and I should inject that few people realize that you do still hold the career yards passing record at Coleraine. I mean, people would not know that having watched.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did absolutely.
How about that?
Man,
he just
Top Gun back in the day.
So you could go with the theory.
Gun.
Maybe he didn't want anybody to break that record, so he never allowed anybody to throw a forward pass.
Believe it or not, that conspiracy theory it's out there. That's why I came here for.
But what's it been like? I know you probably weren't expecting him maybe to be in the starting lineup, but illness, injury has kind of forced your hand, and so far so good. Correct?
Yeah, he's. I think he's getting better each week. He's learning to take care of the ball a little bit better, and it's not easy to do. and the offense is not easy to run, and especially when you're 3 to 4 years younger than everybody else, and you're just kind of doing your thing. But he's got a little bit of it factor. He's been around it all his life, and he's had to grow. 3 older brothers. He's had to grow up pretty tough. So I think it shows in his play.
Doesn't hurt to have David Afari, who's committed to Miami University, one of the leading rushers in the GMC, to hand the football off to. You've got David Jones, who's committed to UC on the defensive side of the football. So things that you're accustomed to, talented players are going to be playing college football, and that certainly helps. And I presume you're going to lean on those two guys on both sides of the ball in a big game like tonight.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, David carried, I think, 24 times 2 weeks ago, 27 times last week. I mean, he's toting it like it at that. You got to feed him the ball, and going back to David at UC and David going to Miami. Think about it. In next year's. After we get through this year, next year's UC Miami game, I'm going to have to get this photo because there'll be 13 players.
Really?
8 that I coached, 8 at UC and 5 at Miami playing in that game. That's pretty cool stuff to see. And I always say, how sweet is that for those kids and how mature are those kids that had offers to go to a lot of other places probably, but they made mature decisions what was best for their family as well as them, where mom and dad and aunts and uncles and grandma and all that can come watch them play. And there's something to be about playing for the hometown.
That's cool.
And what's cool is you can see Tom getting real excited.
Oh,
about this kind of stuff.
Trust me, it's nothing when I get to see them and watch them. And, it was great when I had them in high school, but I'm so proud of them seeing them at the next level.
And we know what gets you excited is a big football game. And it doesn't take much to get this guy excited inside of a locker room before a game. Look, the stories are legendary, kind of like you playing high school quarterback, which I found out tonight you're a high school legend. I didn't know that until tonight. But I think everybody knows about some of the stories of things you've used, props you've used, things you've said in locker rooms to get your teams ready for games. Have you had to pull anything out this year to get this team ready? Have you done anything unique so far this year?
I haven't with these guys because the wild man that I am is enough for them right now. I'm kind of easing them into it a little bit. But there's a lot of fire still, and that's why I do it, and I have fun with it too. Yep. Obviously, you guys know, and that's what it's all about: turning these young men into fine older men and great husbands and great fathers eventually, and things like that. So that's why I do it. I'm gonna have fun doing it. If it takes a rattlesnake or a cow's heart or anything like that.
Well, if you remember, I had a chance to watch one of those. You were in the wrestling gym. Correct me if I'm wrong. You had walking pneumonia when you did this, and you used a dumbbell as a prop to say that they were fired up and ready to take the field. And I can distinctly remember you leaving and walking down the stairs and turning back to me and saying, "Not bad for walking pneumonia."
No,
I would have tended to agree with that. So, no,
you got to bring it,
Tommy. We always appreciate it, man. Best
you guys
good
are
seeing you
awesome.
out
This
here
whole
tonight.
thing's awesome.
Yeah,
appreciate you guys doing this. Really cool.
Thanks. All right, Tom Bolton, head football coach at Lakota West. We're back to talk to the guy on the other side of the sidelines tonight, Lakota East head coach Rick Haynes. Take it away. It's Tailgate at the Showdown live from Lakota West. Welcome live to Firebird Stadium here on the campus of Lakota West High School. Tailgate at the Showdown rolls along until 6:45 tonight. Don't forget, kickoff 7 o'clock. It's the Battle of Lakota. Lakota East at Lakota West. So we believe in equality here. Thanks to the Lakota East marching band. Sounding awesome as well. They're over here tonight getting ready for the big game. And I'm joined now by the head coach of the Thunderhawks, head coach Rick Haynes. Rick, good evening. How are we doing tonight?
I'm doing fine, Tom. Thanks. Hey, first I just want to thank our band. Does an awesome job, and I've never seen a bunch of guys and girls who put in the amount of time that they do. They are out up at school working all the time.
And people don't realize bands like in the summer, if you want to find a football team, you can also find a band getting ready for the season, right?
Oh, they're out there.
And cheerleaders too. We'll be remiss if we got to mention the Lakota East cheerleaders, right?
Correct.
So I talked to Tom Bolden. You guys go way back. You're on the same staff at Colerain. You guys are still friends. He said maybe the conversation this week hasn't been what it's been leading up to this, but he mentioned about how when he was thinking about leaving Colerain and coming to West, how important a role maybe you played in talking to you about being up here for as many years as you've been at East, and how have you guys just remained great friends, and what advice did you give him? I mean, you know the climate here, and it's a great school district, great communities, rivals, and this, of course, is his first East-West game. But
correct.
When you think back to talking to Tom, what'd you tell him?
Well, like you said, it's a great school district, and my advice to Tommy was you just got to do what's best for you and your family, and you got to make those decisions. You know, obviously he was a Colerain grad, and his roots are there, but in the long run, you got to do what's best for your family, and I think that's what Tommy did.
So you guys running a triple, very similar. Right? And, you know, I give him a hard time that he wants to break his passing record at Colerain, right? So if you never throw it, you don't. Rick, let me ask you about this game. It's a great rival game. This place will be packed. You mentioned the communities. But there's increased playoff implications tonight. They're number 5 in the region for Harbin computer ratings. You're number 8. You probably are. Do you look at that stuff? Have you looked at the remaining 3 games and said, hey, to make sure we get in, we need to win 2 or 3? Do you look at it that way, or you just take it 1 week at a time?
We just take it 1 week at a time. I think any time that you spend thinking about your next opponent after the current one, you're wasting your time and you're setting yourself up for failure.
What's this game like? I mean, you've been in this for a number of years. You guys have won the last 3. So, you know, when you were back at Colerain, as Tom mentioned, you had a lot of rival games then as well. How cool is this rivalry, and how different maybe is it? Just because you've got 2 schools in the same district that, you know, similar enrollments, the schools are the same, the fields are the same, everything's the same, but yet you want to have a different identity, and you obviously want to win this game tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's different just from the fact that up until just recently, the Tomahawk Youth Program was just one organization, so a lot of these kids all played together when they were in grade school, and obviously you just have a street that divides East and West, so they're neighbors, and so it's just a whole different atmosphere than a lot of other games.
Talk about the game tonight, and you were mentioning we were just kind of kicking things around beforehand. You mentioned they got a pretty good defense, and that is that one of the biggest things that concerns you about winning this football game tonight, is being able to move the ball on West?
Yeah, I mean, I think you want to control the clock and limit their possessions, and so we got to get first downs. They are very, very good on defense. They're big and athletic, and they run to the ball. So, you know, we got to take care of the ball and not turn it over and get first downs.
Let me take you back to when the GMC went from 7 to 8 league games. Were you in favor of that, or did you think – I know some people said we don't want to do that because we're going to beat each other and knock teams potentially out of the playoffs. Others said nope. And this year, you could conceivably have 6 of the 10 teams make the D1 state playoffs in Region 4.
I was opposed to it because the more common opponents you have, the less fewer points you're going to get. So, as a coach and I think our athletic director, we voted no.
What do you say now when you look at it this year and you're 18 and it looks like you got a legitimate chance to have a third of them in there?
Right. Well, 18. We might have more if we only had 7.
Right. See that. There's a typical coach for you right there. So, Rick, the keys to your football team tonight. What do you need to do to win the football game?
We got to hold on the ball and not turn it over. We got to make sure we get 3 and outs on defense. Have a great kicking game, and just play our game. And they're going to make plays, and you just always got to believe that the momentum's coming your way.
And a final question. I know you've had some really good, you know, you mentioned Fairfield. I mean, you had a chance You left maybe 10 points on the scoreboard there. I mean, and then you look back to Princeton, you're winning that game 24-21. I don't want to bring back bad memories, but I mean, the reality of it is
you're doing a good job.
Thank you. You're 10 seconds away from winning that game. But I got to believe going into a game like tonight, that's a good thing. I mean, you've gone toe-to-toe. Fairfield, the only remaining D1 undefeated team in Cincinnati, and then Princeton, a talent-laden team that maybe, has, I don't know, call it what you will, but you could have won both of those football games.
Yeah, we could have, and obviously I think you learn more from defeats than you do in victories, and so I think our kids have learned from those and know that you got to play 4 quarters. You got to play 48 minutes. You can't play 47 minutes and 50 seconds.
All right, Rick, we appreciate it as
always.
All
right, Tom, thanks.
I'm going to throw things over to Joe and Jeremy from Fox 19 Now Sports. Guys, take it away.
Okay, here we are right now with the Lakota East cheering section. Guys, I can see it's a whiteout tonight, right? You guys hyped for tonight's game? What makes tonight's game such a big deal for you guys?
It's our senior year, so we're all really excited to come out, and we're trying to grab that 4th W, so Hawks by 90!
I'm telling you, this by 90 thing is a thing with high school kids.
I need to know, but I showed up late, but I'm here now. I need to know, where did this by 90 thing start? Can you all give me, listen, I'm not a high school kid anymore, so I don't, where everyone says by 90. Where did this start? Who started this?
So we grew up in Cincinnati, so you got to give UC their credit. So it actually started out as Cats by 90, and then as high schoolers, we took it because Hawks by 90. And that's it.
Fantastic. I love it. See, now I know.
So the last 3 years, Lakota East has won this game by a combined score of 92-14, so almost by 90, 92-14. I know a lot of people here at Lakota West are listening. I know you want to change that this year, but why will that not change this year? Why will it be 4 years in a row for Lakota East in this game?
We're geared up. The students are ready. The players are ready. The coaches are ready. The band, the cheerleaders, everyone's ready for the game. So.
I love it.
She's pumped.
Y'all ready? Okay, so and you came ready. We got to point some of the outfits out here. You got a very nice scarf there.
Thank you.
Is that now? Are those real feathers? Did you go out and get a bird for that?
I can't say that I did.
Okay, just thought I'd check. I like the face paint. Now, did you guys do like the face paint yourself? Did mom do it? Girlfriends? Boyfriend? Okay, good.
There you go.
Okay, and in the lock. Okay. Fantastic. You guys look great. Now, explain to everyone watching right now what it is like going to Lakota East. I'll talk to you right here because we haven't talked to you yet. Lakota East, Lakota West rivalry game. What is the atmosphere like in a game like this?
It gets really crazy because, once again, we are Lakota, but East is ready to bring it tonight, so I'm super excited.
Now, are you chanting some shade at Lakota West fans, some hateful things? You keeping it nice?
I think we're gonna keep it clean, but we're gonna grab some digs in there while we can.
See, when I was in high school, our AD would kind of hang by the student. That's what happens.
Oh yeah.
They hang by the student section, and you chant a couple of things, and they just kind of give you that look, and if I want to come to school on Monday, I should.
Ours was this. We had a dean of discipline that would do this at least 10 different times a game. By the way, you got that too. So, yeah,
Okay.
He's got them on lock tonight. Okay, that is Lakota East. They are hyped up for tonight's game. Let's go back up to Tom on the stage. Tom.
No, I appreciate it, guys. Obviously, great student sections from both schools. So, getting ready for East and West tonight. Kickoff is 7 o'clock, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention what great sponsors we have. This is the Skyline Chili Crosstown Showdown, presented by Mercy Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. And Meyer. The Meyer folks are out there with the big red chair, and it's now my pleasure to welcome to the stage. We'll stay in the GMC. How about that? Dr. Brian Rottinghouse from Mercy Health Ortho and Sports Med. Doc, good evening. How are we doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on here, Tom.
Now, I'd be remiss. You've been standing on the sidelines of a pretty good football team this year. You're the head team physician of Fairfield High School, so we're staying in the GMC. They're the only remaining D1 undefeated team in Cincinnati. So I know people probably don't think about that, but when you're the doc and you're standing on the sidelines, it's not bad when your team's pretty good too, right?
That's right. It's been a really fun season this year. I've had the privilege of being at Fairfield for 7 years now. They've got an incredible coaching staff there with Coach Krause and the other guys that have been there the whole time I've been there.
Yeah, Jason's done a really nice job. He has.
Correct. Yeah. And
What-
they've got a ton of talent there, and they've done a great job of putting the talent together and getting them to become a good team.
And watching John McClain on a Friday night isn't a bad thing either. Now, let me ask you, I want to ask you, it feels great out here now. I mean, it's an awesome night. The sun's shining, but a little bit later, and we're getting into those cold nights where, frost advisories and warnings and everything. A lot of times people necessarily, I realize this isn't ortho and sportsman, but how about this will be a common sense question. How about that? When you get in that cold, what are some things that you would tell people just to be thinking about? Because you're going to see students tonight, right? Shirts off, body paint, all that. Maybe not the smartest?
Well, yeah, you're exactly right. Especially when your adrenaline's going and there's an exciting atmospheric and you can take things a little far and maybe unclothe yourself a little bit more than you need to. I would say one of the key things, we always think about hydration and heat. It's the same thing when it's really cold. You got to keep yourself hydrated.
Well, let me ask you, when you're on the sidelines, and I know there's a lot of parents watching the program with student athletes in a variety of sports, and I think one of the questions is, when are you hurt and when are you injured, and what are telltale signs, and what are your recommendations? Just if somebody comes home for practice or a game and it's an ankle or a wrist or an elbow or whatever it may be, what advice can you give just universally for when you should go and get checked out comparative to when maybe you don't need to? Because I know, I'm okay, you could play through it, all that, but what's your advice in circumstances like that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Tom, because as we know, football is a rough sport. Through the course of a season, a player is going to get multiple dings, sprains, bumps and bruises, and they don't have to stop playing for each of those things. And the athlete wants to stay out on the field and compete no matter what. And our goal is to keep those athletes out there competing, but we also want it to be safe. So a few things, general rule, if you're concerned about a head injury, if a kid's having headaches that aren't going away, having a difficulty concentrating, problems with light, definitely that's something you want to get checked out.
When you're talking football, I know the people don't think about the other sports either. There's as many injuries and many times other sports. Football's obviously the contact, the more violent you see the head on, but people need to be wary of injuries in all the other sports. I'm sure you see a lot of that as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And football isn't necessarily the sport that has the highest number of injuries. I mean, you take soccer, for example, tons of extremity injuries with knees and ankles in that sport.
All right, well, Doc, we appreciate you coming out tonight. It's always good to see you. So you're going to make any predictions? So Fairfield's number one in the region in the rankings right now. Do the Indians want, in your humble opinion, from watching on the sideline, 10-0?
Absolutely.
Big one, Week 10, right?
That's exactly right. We're looking forward to it.
You can't look ahead to tonight. I know you have to get over to Sycamore Stadium, and Fairfield's at Sycamore, one of the GMC games tonight. But appreciate you stopping out. It's always great to see you. We'll see you at the Mercy Health Hoops Classic as well. So Thanks, Dr. Brian Rottinghouse, head team physician from Fairfield. And let's hear again the Lakota East Marching Band. We continue more Tailgate at the Showdown live from Firebird Stadium at Lakota West High School. Welcome back to Firebird Stadium here on the campus of Lakota West High School. Rob Tannis and the Lakota East marching band, outstanding. I'll tell you one thing, when you're at the Lakota games, you know you're going to get great marching bands. I want to thank Andy Carr and the Lakota West Band earlier, Rob Tannis, the Lakota East Band. Cheerleaders, Kayla Rogers and the West cheerleaders, Cheryl Davis and the East cheerleaders. You know out here you get great bands. I'm joined by Cincinnati.com's own Scott Springer on site tonight. You can read the story from tonight's game. Scott, welcome.
Yeah, it'll be on Cincinnati.com, and I'll be tweeting like a fool the whole game.
You will?
Yes, because I'm foolish like that.
No, that's okay. It's all good. People follow that stuff. So coming up in a couple minutes, we'll get you a final quarter preview with Joe and Jeremy. But right now, let's talk about a couple of the big games around town. I'm going to start you. I'm going to take you over to your neighborhood because I know you had to venture out of Anderson tonight. But Anderson at Turpin tonight, another one of those big rival games. They're both 4-0 in the Eastern Cincinnati Conference. Turpin undefeated. Anderson's won 4 in a row since those back-to-back losses to Hamilton, and the first shutout in Evan Dryer's coaching career. Overtime, 6-0 to Harrison. Anderson have a chance in that one? I mean, Turpin's been really impressive, but boy, Anderson seems to be coming on.
I think it's a coin flip game. I mean, Turpin, obviously, they have a tremendous offensive line. You lose Reese Evans.
Yeah, that's
they
going to
put
be
Caden
tough.
Naughton in for 2 games, and he's got well over 200-plus yards. So a heck of an offensive line. Anderson, since the game that we were there, actually, it was
Anderson Kings,
Kings, and that's what started it. They went from 0 to 59.
Right.
So I think you're the key to all scoring.
Well, we'll see. We'll see tonight. You never know. This could be a wild one too.
But they've got actually a decent defense in addition to being able to score. So I think they're going to find ways to move the ball. And something weird always happens in these games. Something weird at the end. You never know. So I expect a tight win. I did take Anderson. I don't know. I mean,
now, is that a legitimate, or is that a little bit of homerism? Now you're right, though. I mean, it's when you lose a player like Reese Evans, like Turpin has, but they've been awful darn impressive.
Well, he's a tremendous player. It's just I think if he were there for sure, I would take Turpin without a doubt.
Okay.
But for other reasons, I took Anderson, and we'll see either I'm stupid or a genius at the end.
Well, let me give you another game tonight. I think it's going to be very intriguing. That is Elder on the road at Winton Woods.
Very intriguing, and I took Elder in that one, and I'm not feeling extra confident about that because Winton Woods at home. They have so many weapons, and they took 2 losses, but one is the Lakewood St. Ed, who's maybe the best team in Ohio. Sure. The other one's an out-of-state school in Missouri, and they just beat Edgewood, who's normally pretty good.
Right.
They pounded a lot of people.
Well, if you're into comparative scores, Elder's only loss is to St. Edward 2 by 17.
Right.
Winton Woods, now granted that was in Northeast Ohio. Winton Woods lost by 20, but I think they're both outstanding teams, and that's going to be a good one. And then there's the king of the road. I think this is interesting, too, because a lot of people last week were kind of shocked to see, maybe not that Covington Catholic beat LaSalle, but beat them 27-7 rather handily. And then St. X only lost this year's 31-28 at home to Elder. And, the GCL, you could still have an outright champion in Elder. LaSalle, you could have co-champs, or you could have tri-champs. This should be an interesting one, too.
I think both of those schools have something to prove in this game tonight. The St. X lost to Elder. They came back late and scored a bunch of points, but Elder had a pretty commanding lead. LaSalle, I'm sorry, that was somewhat of a beatdown. Some people disagree with me on that, but Covcath is really impressive, and they took advantage. You have LaSalle has an excellent secondary, a bunch of D1 guys, but Michael Mayer and Caleb Jacob tore him up.
Yeah, well, and Michael Mayer on both sides of the football. And really, I think most people's question is if LaSalle can't run it, can they pass it well enough? And I think we'll find out tonight. We're at Lakota West. It's Lakota East, Lakota West. And Scott, this is one of those rival games. It's Anderson Turpin. It's Elder X. It's all of those things. And when you've got 2 schools in the same district, this is always one. Doesn't matter if there are any implications, but it's even better when there are, like tonight. West currently sits 5th in the Region 4 Harbin ratings. Lakota East is 8th. So this is really an important game for both of these teams.
Yeah, they both really need it, and from what I know about rivalries close by, it means a lot. Whoever wins this game has bragging rights forever if you're a senior on the next person, and that's the way this is going to go. And then it's big, obviously big politically. Look at all the folks out there. I don't know any of the people running, but hats off to them for being smart and being out here with a sign.
Getting your audience on the way. Unfortunately, I'm not a big political guy. Fortunately, I didn't have to see any of that because I was in here early enough. Before we get a preview of tonight's final quarter from Joe and Jeremy, let me ask you, a lot of teams in the GMC, there were people opposed, and some said we need to go to 8 games. Many said we don't. Let's keep it at 7. We don't want to beat one another. Conceivably, there could be 6 of the 8 teams in Region 4 that make the postseason from the GMC this year.
Well, it's really impressive, and you look at Sycamore and Princeton kind of hanging around there. They need wins and everything. And
Mason still in the mix. They're at Coleraine tonight.
Rick's team tonight, East, is right in the hunt, but they're always in the hunt. You know, this guy is very, very consistent, just as Scott Totillo is. I think there's just such good coaching in the GMC. You have a lot of guys doing the same thing every year. They're beating one another up, but as you mentioned, we're looking at Joe Idle's ratings here, and there are all those teams. Well,
we got plenty more to talk about. Obviously, we're going to talk about some of the big games tonight. We'll predict those. But later this evening, when you get home from whatever game you're out watching, or you want to know all the scores and all the video highlights and all the action and all that good stuff, what are you going to do? You're going to tune into Fox 19 now. Check out Joe and Jeremy for the final quarter. So let's see what they've got planned for us tonight. I'm going 17 games tonight. We'll see if I'm right. Joe? Jeremy?
At this, a minimum of 15 games. What we have been. It typically works out as the night goes on. Big plays happen. People submit video to us. We end up getting a couple more than we planned. But 15 games coming up tonight on the final quarter at 11:15. This is one of our featured games. So many big games tonight. We had to be here at East West to feature this one and check out the Red Sea.
How could you? Can we get hype here? Can we get some? Okay. All right. Okay. Now I need to just set this up. Silence the Thunder. I like that. Thunderhawks. Okay. East said Hawks by 90. What you got?
Birds by 91.
Let's go. Let's go. Can we get an audio check? All right. Okay. I love it. Fantastic. All right. So this is going to be a fun game, obviously. I mean, your atmosphere.
So that's the hashtag we're going to make tonight. Is either Hawks by 90 or Birds by 91. But social media, I've been told here, talking to these young people, that there's been kind of a back and forth, that they stole maybe one of your ideas this week on social media. Tate is the unofficial spokesperson here of the Red Sea. Can you explain what happened this week, Tate?
Yeah, fill us in.
So what happened was we on social media every year for the East-West game, when we tweet out anything about East or, those guys, we block out the E with the red X. And this week they've been blocking out the W, but they have also been using the red X. So.
Red? Man, okay.
You can't use red?
I like that. Now we got to showcase. I'm saying, but I like that stuff in a rivalry. I mean, you hate to see it, but you kind of want to see it because it really brings the juice on a Friday night. I mean, you may have came to this game tonight and thought, like, they're okay. I'm friends with that guy over there. But like now, you want to stick it to them, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we showcase some of the paint here? Great job with the paint. I love this. Now, are you a professional face painter? Do you do this a lot?
No. I just slapped it on my face.
Just threw it on there?
Yeah.
And you have some glitter laying around the house, a younger sister, or?
No, I just went and bought it.
Okay. Fantastic. I just got to check in. I mean, the attire's fantastic here. You guys you got to do a bit. You guys, Santa's here.
Yeah.
And
Santa's here.
I like this look right here. Row the boat, a little PJ Fleck action. Okay, fantastic.
We got some more up our sleeve too.
Yeah, there's just a little bit. We have a whole lot coming. That's all.
Okay.
The Red Sea is going to get parted.
Oh, wow.
The Red Sea is going to get parted tonight. Okay, that's a teaser. I like that going forward. I also like the fact that Santa Claus came over here dressed up. It's like a Halloween outfit here. It's Christmas in October.
Yes.
Now, Grayson, they've told us not to talk to you because you might say something crazy. So we're not going to let Grayson talk here on the microphone. We're just going to let him look like Santa Claus and have a good time tonight. This is the Red Sea. They are going to bring it tonight. Can you guys bring it now one more time?
Get hype. Let's go.
Bring it now one more time. Woo. Okay, remember, they said Birds by 91 tonight. That would be quite large. That might be a record if that happens tonight.
I will say this. This is going to be one of our featured games tonight on the final quarter. There's a lot of good games in the area we've talked about. You're going to see them right at the top of the show. You're going to see Highlands and Covcath, Anderson and Turpin. I'll be there. Elder, Winton Woods, LaSalle St. X, and yes, this one, Lakota East and Lakota West. So, listen, y'all better put it on tape, okay? Because it's making the final quarter. We will have the highlights. It's going to be a big show tonight. Cannot wait.
All right, I will be here for this game. I'm hanging out here. We're going to send it back to Tom here right now.
All right.
Guys, appreciate it as always, and great student sections here at both schools. It'll be a raucous crowd tonight at Firebird Stadium for East-West. Joe will be back up after 6:30. We'll talk about some of the games around town. It's Tom Gamble along with Scott Springer from Cincinnati.com, who's covering the game here tonight. And Scott, I'm going to bounce my tailgate top 10 in reverse order off of you. All right.
See what you think. In terms of tailgate.
This is just no. This is that we call it the tailgate and then the top 10. This is the tailgate. So here we go. I'm going in reverse order. At number 10, I've got undefeated Turpin. All right, and again, I throw out the classifications in that this is Tri-State.
True.
Number 9, East Central, which Jake Miners goes to wrap up a perfect regular season. This is the final week of the Indiana regular season before they start.
East Central, the only team to beat Harrison.
That is correct. You are right, and I would have Harrison in my others getting very close. So they've kind of done it under the radar.
Right.
Have the Wildcats.
One loss.
Number 8, I've got Lakota West. I mean, I think that they 5-2. When you look at, they were 13-7 to Fairfield. I'm going to give them a pass on that first loss at LaSalle, and they've won 5 of 6.
They rebounded well after the losses.
They have, but here you go. I'll rattle them off down to number 1, and then we'll talk about it. At 7, I've got Winton Woods, 5-2, but you mentioned those 2 losses. Number 6, I've still got LaSalle. I moved Colerain to number 5. They're once beaten only to St. X. I put Covington Catholic up to 4. They've won 28 straight regular season games. They've got some big-time players on both sides of the football. Then I've got Fairfield. I know they're undefeated. I've got them at number 3. St. X at number 2. Elder at number 1. Again, 3 points when those 2 teams played separated Elder and St. X. Elder won 31-28. So for me, and again, somebody might be saying, well, wait a minute. You're not giving enough love to Fairfield. But to me, and Jason Krause, the Indians, the GMC, I just think when you look at the schedules of Elder and St. X and what they've done, until a GMC team knocks them off in the postseason, I'm still leaning with the GCL.
I think they would agree to that, too, if you got right down to it. And what's funny, you look at your top 10, and you know, one loss tonight could change all that and flip that whole thing around.
Well,
I mean, Elder, Winton Woods, St. X, LaSalle.
No question.
I think Fairfield still has a huge game coming up against Colerain.
It does,
week
10. Yep, they're hosting Colerain in week 10. And you've still got, Fairfield's against Sycamore tonight at Sycamore Stadium. You can't take a night off. Mason's at
Not
Colerain.
a gimme at all, no.
Right, and Lakota West still has to play Princeton. I mean, so their week in and week out are still a lot of difficult games. All right, we will continue with Tailgate at the Showdown. Again, Scotty Kaufman, the AD of Lakota West, a member of the OHSA Board of Directors. He'll join us. We'll kick some high school topics around, but let's give it up again for the Lakota East Marching Band. We're live at Firebird Stadium at West High School. It's Tailgate at the Showdown. Welcome back to Lakota West High School, Firebird Stadium, as we count down to tonight's Battle of Lakota, Lakota East at Lakota West, part of the Skyline Chili Crosstown Showdown presented by Mercy Health, Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, and Meyer. Want to thank Fox 1996 Rock is here this evening, too. They're giving away the discount passes to the Land of Illusion Haunted Scream Park if you want to be scared as we approach Halloween. I am Tom Gamble. He is Scott Springer from Cincinnati.com, and we're now joined by a dignitary and a legend. We'll let you figure out who is who. He would be Scott Kaufman. Now, let me make sure I get all these titles. You're like a doctor, man. You got all these little, except you don't have initials. He's the athletic director here at Lakota West High School, been a good friend of mine for a long, long time. He's also on the Ohio High School Athletic Association Board of Directors, and he's the Southwest District Board President, which probably means he gets to sit and try to stay awake at a lot of meetings.
We have more than our share of meetings.
Is that accurate? And so he's the dignitary, and then the legend. What number were you on the top 50 list?
5.
5.
I know. It shocked me, too.
On the Bengals top 50 list, former kicker, legend, Jim Breach. You are, I mean, tonight that's your role, right?
I guess it is. That's what I heard.
So the Bengals will be out. They're at 6 games. It's part of the NFL celebrating 100 years, the anniversary. They have legends and some players out. So Jim will be here tonight. He's obviously here with Leon Hall, former Bengal defensive back.
Well, actually,
no change.
No. Leon Hall will be here, along with current players Josh Tupoy and Andrew Billings.
Okay.
So I was here a little. I live in the area, so
change. I got you. No, I know. And correct me if I'm wrong. Your son played here at West, right?
2 of my sons played here.
Okay. How about that?
So who are you pulling for? Let's get right to it.
Well, here's the problem. See, my granddaughter is we live in Lakota East. I coached 7th grade Lakota this year, which is Lakota West feeder at Ridge. So I'm kind of torn here. So I just want a great game. I hope the best team wins. How's that? Is that diplomatic enough?
Well, okay. I'm gonna ask you this question because I know you're too diplomatic. I just need a simple yes or no. Will the Bengals win a football game in 2019?
Yes.
Okay.
They do play Miami, right?
They do. In Miami, and they do play the Jets.
I think they've come close several times.
Come on now.
They have come close.
Scotty, I want to ask you.
Although Miami came close too, right?
Right. They did. They went for 2. They went for
Good
it
for
last
them.
week. Anyway, forget about all that. Scotty, I got to ask you, this game, I mean, you were athletic director previously at Princeton, Wyoming. You've been at West now for a while, and we talk about great rivalry games in greater Cincinnati. This truly, from all levels, has to be one of the best.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, you have a district of 16,500 kids, cover 65 square miles, 2 phenomenal high schools, 4 great junior highs. I mean, this is everything great about high school sports. You look at this atmosphere tonight, you look at what this crowd will be, there probably won't be 5 square feet of ground available for somebody to stand in. And for all the right reasons. And I expect a great football game. You know, we were talking the other day, you have both Lakotas in a really good position to both make the playoffs.
Right.
And how great of a tribute is that to a community that buys into their schools and buys into their programs. And so it's a really exciting time for our community and both high schools.
Well, let me ask you this. It's not an easy task to be an athletic director these days. I mean, let's be just honest. There's a lot of sports, a lot of coverage, a lot of hours. There's parents. Not that there's anything wrong with parents. You have to have parents to have student athletes. But
they have access to email. That's the problem.
Access to email, social media, there's all that. But I heard you say earlier in the week that this is, if you can't enjoy tonight as an AD, you shouldn't be an AD. And I tend to agree with you. I think there are some ADs who look at a night like tonight and go, man, there's a ton of work. But this is really cool, isn't it?
This is everything you work for. I mean, we were talking earlier because we've been running around like a chicken with our head cut off today. Once kickoff happens, I get to sit back and enjoy and watch the game and watch the kids do what they've been working hard for since January. It takes a village. We got a lot of people that work really hard to make all of this happen. Watching what your crew did in setting up all this. I mean, it takes a lot of people who buy in and who are excited about the programs. But no, this is exactly why you do what you do. We'll have 6,000-7,000 people here tonight. want them all to come in comfortable, have a great game, go home or go out or do whatever it is they do, and be able to talk about a great football game. It's, like I said, great community. Tonight is everything that's perfect about high school sports.
When this first started, it was actually off campus.
Yes.
The game was played up in Miami. It was played at
Galbraith Field.
Yeah, Galbraith Field, and they were drawing up to 10,000 people. And then they decided that it would probably be better on campus. It really is great on campus.
Well, Jim, let me ask you, you obviously had a lengthy and very solid NFL career. You were a two-sport athlete at Cal Berkeley. You're from the state of California. I know you've probably been indoctrinated into high school football in this area since you've lived here. But for people, how cool is the high school years? I think too often everybody's always looking at that. You got people graduating early now so they can get – I'm a believer in these are some of the times that you'll remember your high school football playing days, the memories, the friends for the rest of your life.
Can I tell you that I played in 2 Super Bowls. We played the big game 4 years, with 90,000 to 100,000 against Stanford. And my junior and senior years, we played for the city championship. And the one in my junior year, because we won, I guess I remember it better, is up there with the Super Bowls. They were as big as the Super Bowls were at the time, because when I was in high school, there was nothing better. I mean, I tell you, it was one of the greatest experiences. And I tell kids that what you're doing right now is the most important thing that you're going to do when it comes to football right now. If you have an opportunity to go beyond that, that's great. However, if you don't, these are the games you're going to be talking about with your buddies later on. We always talk, and when I get together with friends of mine, we still talk about those games. And you can't beat it. I mean, high school football is awesome. It's a great experience, and it's very memorable. It does create memories.
Brag on yourself a little bit. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you were a high school quarterback.
I was, yes.
Yeah,
I know.
So you were kicking and throwing and running and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, I know. I did. Yes, I did.
Now, speaking of quarterbacks, another key question. How much did Joe Montana cost you on that pass? Because were you not the MVP, or did you have a shot at that, or as I recall?
Well, yeah, apparently I was in the preliminary ballot in that Super Bowl. The way I kind of look at that is it took 2 of the greatest players in the history of the game, Joe Montana and Jerry Rice, to beat us that night.
Right.
And, they had 92 yards or a little over 3 minutes to go. I think if you told any team that, you're going to take it.
I blame John Candy on that when Montana went to the
Yeah, I know.
huddle.
That gets so much play. John Candy, I mean, come on.
Those were the days. There are plenty of people who would, right? We long for those days again. Scott, be remiss. You're heavily involved with the OHSAA, and I know. Is there any topic, any hot topic going on around the state? I know, if not just football, but some of the other stuff. I know there's always the transfer rules and this and that. But what's on the horizon? What's on the agenda right now that's getting a lot of play?
Well, obviously the transfer rules are always something talked about. They're getting to the point where there's so many exceptions. Why have any rule at all? But probably the highest profile thing we got going on right now is the lawsuit with the Greater Catholic League, the GCL, and which deals with the competitive balance aspects of things. And, they weren't real happy with the way competitive balance has worked for the smaller schools. Doesn't really impact the Mollers and Elders of the world because they're D1 and they're going to be D1 no matter what. But the competitive balance has had an impact on the Roger Bacons and Badens of the world, and probably a little more of an impact than they want. So they're trying to, manipulate the rules a little bit through the court system, and we're just going to let it play out and see where it goes.
Jim, do you get out to many high school games? I know I know you're obviously
I do,
live up here, but
I'll get to East and West games most Fridays. So as I said, my granddaughter is a big East fan, so we go to a number of East games. I've been to a couple West games this year just because I'm coaching over there at 7th grade, part of Lakota West. So I've got to come over and watch them play a little bit too.
Are you a fan of the forward pass?
I'm an extreme fan of the forward pass.
You might not see a lot tonight.
Not a lot, but it's been pretty successful, the offenses they've run, so you really can't say too much.
I mentioned about you being number 5, and that was the countdown of the Bengals all-time top 50. Did that surprise? I mean, just being a kicker, obviously you scored a ton of points. Did that surprise you? And B, how cool is that when you look at that list and see all those names to say, man, there's only 4, and it's a pretty impressive 4 ahead of you.
It was unbelievable to be chosen, and it was absolutely shocking to be number 5. I mean, I was hoping, you know, I figured I'd be in the top 50, but beyond that, I had no idea, and it's pretty cool. I mean, I just appreciate that, you know, 160,000 votes were out there, so I'm just very appreciative. I'm very humbled by it, to tell you the truth.
Well, I want to say, you know, being a kid who grew up in Cincinnati, I was at the 81 game. I still have frostbite from it.
Oh,
but what an exciting time, because one of the things that was really cool, I know. Yeah. Call security, please.
Thankfully, yes, thankfully.
But it was being able to watch Jim through his career. You knew when he came onto the field it was money. And I got the opportunity to play golf with him in Fulcher's outing several years ago. I think we struggled at, 21 under? And came in third.
We did, yeah.
You know, but him being in the community and his kid going through the school, it was really cool when I got the call from the Bengals and they said that he would be here. So I appreciate you being here, and thank you for what you did with your career, because it was fun for me growing up watching you play.
You know, I always look at what we did as kind of creating memories, right? When I was a kid watching games with my dad, my brother, with my kids and stuff, and those are memories. You remember, you talk about those games, just like the high school stuff you're talking about. And to be able to be a part of that and have people talk about games you played in it's very cool. I feel very blessed to have had the opportunity and then fall in love with the community and stay here in Cincinnati for 37 years now.
Are you surprised? One thing for me, we got about a minute left in this segment, but are you surprised more kids aren't kickers today at the high? I mean, if I'm looking at a way to get to the next level, to get to college, and you know, boy, there have been some outstanding ones. Matt Coughlin of Moeller's now up at Michigan State. Jake Seibert from LaSalle's going to Ohio State. Drew Chrisman, who's a punter. But, boy, if I'm looking at it, I'm thinking,
Kevin Thibodeau just committed to Navy.
Oh, that's right, Kevin Thibodeau to Navy.
He's really, really
correct.
good.
But, I mean, are you surprised that more kids, especially with the influence of more kids playing soccer now, that there's that transfer over to football, being a kicker?
There are a lot more. There's many more. Not every school has it, but there are many, many more today that are capable of doing it. And sometimes there's some soccer kids that they're not allowed to. The football coach just won't let them.
That's a valid point. Yeah.
So, but to your point, I mean, if you want to do it, I mean, there's some opportunity at the next level. If you're really good and you get to the pro level, there's a lot of money to be made these days.
Yeah, there's that point, too. Jim Breach, the Bengals legend, on hand tonight, celebrating 100 years of the NFL. Dignitary Scott Kaufman, AD at Lakota West, and long titles with the OHSAA. And when we continue, we'll welcome Joe D. from Fox 19 back up. Scott Springer will pick tonight's game and look at some of the other big ones. But right now, back to the Lakota East marching band. It's Tailgate at the Showdown. Welcome back to Firebird Stadium here on the campus of Lakota West High School. East-West, Battle of Lakota tonight. We are T-minus about 29 minutes till kickoff. And Aaron in the Union Center skyline, a favorite spot for one Scott Kaufman right down the road here from West High School. And can't go wrong with some cheese conies from Skyline Chili, right? We're up to number 16. We do pep rallies all season long. We have 3 more. And I got to tell you, people are like, you tired of eating Sky? Are you kidding me? I can eat there 2 or 3 times a day.
I know it's a sponsorship prop, but you put Skyline in front of me and tell me to wait. It's like telling a dog to stay. And I just stare at them until you say, okay, go ahead. So I'm going to have to stare at those for, 15 more minutes?
But I'll tell you what, I'll let you take them away. How about that?
That's a deal.
I'll concede because I've had it a lot this week. Not that I don't want it more tonight, but I'll concede.
That's a deal.
Joe Danneman, Fox 19 Now Sports. Scott Springer from Cincinnati.com. And Meyer's in the house. We do this. We've got our Meyer family of the game tonight. Dean and Patty Reverman from Lakota West. Daughters Ellie and Tori. So there you have it.
I bet they've been to that Skyline.
Oh, you know they haven't. I bet they've been to Meyer, and if they haven't, they're going soon because they're going to get a Meyer gift card to enjoy. So it's our Meyer family of the game tonight, which is very, very cool. So we welcome them for being out here tonight. Thanks, and congrats. Everybody can use themselves a Meyer. I mean, we take care of people, Joe.
Some West fans. I wonder if they say West by 90. Well, excuse me, West by 91.
What's up with the 90 and 91? Have they not followed scores of high school? I realize you want to.
There is a running clock at 30.
You think?
Yeah.
This is the you got to do the hyperbole thing that the high school kids.
All right.
Everything is got to be just a little bit ridiculous for it really to hit.
Now, before we get into big games for tonight, I want to thank Joe, Jeremy, and everybody from Fox 19. They've been a huge part of this. I know you guys have worked really hard to do some of the videos and the breaks and all the highlights and just being on site. We really enjoy it. Love watching the final quarter. So thanks to you guys for being troopers. And Scott Springer, Jason Hoffman, Lindsey Patterson, everybody from Cincinnati.com. And trust me on this. This might be our final tailgate at the Showdown this year. Next year, stay tuned. We'll have an announcement. It's going to get even bigger and better because, we thought this would be cool and fun, and it's been everything that we thought it would be and even some more. It's a lot of fun getting out with all the people and getting ready for high school football.
Well, you should take a bow. So should your lovely wife and everyone back there on audio,
Kevin
on
and
camera.
Zach, and absolutely, and all the people who have worked. Without the production folks from ESP Media, not a chance.
I heard you're getting a bus. That's what I heard.
Jeez, please.
Your face is on the side.
Yeah.
We got to get
People
one of those big
out.
jib cams. You know those cameras like College Game Day has that kind of float around the crowd?
Wait
a minute.
Right.
Am I in the right ballpark here?
You might be. You never know. Yeah, that'd be cool, wouldn't it?
Little tease.
But we do really appreciate everybody who's been a part of this. And let's talk about some of the games tonight,
Let's do it.
we?
I'm in.
All right, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
South of the river.
Yep.
Cov-Cath at Highlands. Last year, the game was – and people are asking me, wait, it was at Highlands last year. That's accurate. It was, and it's back there again because they reshuffled district and the way they did the scheduling. 21-14.
Right.
Miserable night last year.
Yep.
Driving rain. Highlands got close, had some opportunities, in fact.
They did.
Now, they've lost 3 times this year. I think the one that people were surprised about a few weeks back, 21-17 to Connor. Speaking of Connor, in the Showdown next week, Cov-Cath at Connor. We got that game. We got some great games. We got Winton Woods at LaSalle next week. We got one north, one south. And in week 10, we've got Indian Hill at Wyoming. But tonight, back to Fort Thomas. What do you think?
Okay, so I'll start there. You talked about last year. They played again in the playoffs, and Cov-Cath shut them out in the playoffs. And you saw when it was better weather and maybe on their home turf. But tonight's in Fort Thomas, and things get a little bit wild in Fort Thomas when Cov-Cath plays against Highlands. You talked about the Connor game. I was at that game. My takeaway from that game, before that night, I thought Highlands could play with Cov-Cath and perhaps upset them. They could not block Connor up front. They could not block Connor. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't protect their quarterback. The one thing Highlands likes to do is throw the ball deep. They take shots. And if there's one Achilles heel for Cov-Cath, you talk to people on the coaching staff, they're not sure about their defensive backfield. So I would expect Highlands to try to take some shots tonight against Cov-Cath, see if they can exploit that. Will they have time to do that? Because if Cov-Cath dominated up front against LaSalle, and Connor dominated Highlands up front, what's Cov-Cath going to do to Highlands? I'll pick Cov-Cath in that game. I'll give Highlands the benefit of the doubt on their home field that it will be competitive, and it's a rivalry game, but I take Cupcalf to win.
All right, I'm going to go back to Scott. We touched on this a little bit earlier, but Anderson, Turpin, big game in the ECC. I mean, really, this is for the ECC championship. They're both 4-0. Turpin is undefeated, missing Reese Evans. Anderson's won 4 straight. Has looked very good on offense. Got it rolling again, and Evan Dreyer always seems they're there again. Playoffs, Turpin, number 2 in the region. You sticking with? I gave you a little more time to think. Are you sticking with the Redskins?
Well, yeah, I got to stick with my pick. It's been published already, but Anderson really needs the points. They're right now 7 in Idols ratings. Turpin is at 2, I think. I think they're 2.
That's correct. Yes.
So 7-0. They're missing Reese Evans. If they had Reese Evans, without a doubt, I'd take him. Now, I don't want to discount Caden Naughton, who has come in and run for 200-plus yards in 2 games, and you have to say Turpin's offensive line is crazy good for them to clear holes for a guy who goes from receiver to running back. They just insert another guy, and he's 200-plus yards. And they got a great-looking tight end in Bell and Justin Silverstein at quarterback.
Yep.
He can really throw it. But Anderson's looked very good since those 2 losses.
Correct.
One was Division I Hamilton. The other is Harrison, who's highly rated. Harrison is the number 1 in the Joe Idol in Division II.
Yeah.
So, and they held Connor Kinnett and Harrison to 6 points, which not many people have done. So I think the Anderson defense is better. I think they have ways of moving the ball. And again, like I say, it's kind of a coin flip, and crazy things happen in this game at the end. It is at Turpin. They do have that going, but I'm going to stick with what I said because that's what I said. And so I'll take the heat later. Trust me, if I'm wrong, I'll hear about it.
All right, Joe, non-conference game tonight, intriguing. 6-1 Elder at 5-2 Winton Woods. Winton Woods has won 3 of the last 4 games in this series. Elder, I saw him last week in the first half against Moore. They looked virtually unstoppable, but this is a really, really good Winton Woods team.
I talked about Winton Woods 2 weeks ago on the final quarter, and I said they are a play anybody, anywhere kind of program. We've seen their schedule. This is not a Division I team, and they have St. Ed's on their schedule. They have Elder on their schedule. And you got to tip your cap for a team who will line up and play teams like that. Not just the best here in the city, one of the best teams in the state. I think Elder has too much. I've seen them both play, and I just think Elder has that offensive line, and those offensive weapons are going to be too much for Winton Woods. I'm wondering when Mind Williams is going to break out and have his game because he should have been Mr. Football in Ohio last year. He had that kind of year last year. He's been banged up, some ankle problems, and he hasn't had the year we expected him to have. We expected him to put up 30 touchdowns, 35 touchdowns, maybe even more than that this year. The guy to watch for, though, Demir Blankumsey. St. Ed's had a really difficult time stopping him. Jet sweeps, big plays down the field. He is not Mind Williams' sidekick. This is a Division I player. He's a kid who can make plays. He's going to have to do something big tonight. He or Mind Williams is going to have a huge game to keep this a game. I like Elder. They are the best team in the tri-state. I will stick with that until they are beaten.
Well, and I'll tell you what would be awful to me is if Winton Wood, they're in jeopardy, too, with that schedule of not making a postseason.
Yeah, right now they're number 8, and they're
correct.
the best 8 seed around.
All right, I guarantee you the 1 seed is saying no.
Well, you think Harrison wants to be part of Winton Woods?
No, they do not. No. So it's King of the Road. LaSalle, after its loss last week, Scott, 6-1. They really were impressive in the first 6 games. They're at St. Xavier. I still think St. X and Elder, to me, they could go either way. How do you see this one shaking down? Can LaSalle hang around in this one?
Well, LaSalle needs to save face a little bit after last week because they were smacked around by Cubcath. St. X, that they probably could run the ball a little bit better, but Andrew Coverdale is like a mad scientist. Again, I love his offense. They chuck it around pretty good, and you've got Reeby, who is coached by Tony Pike, who's normally here with you, and Marshall Lang going to Northwestern, and Liam Clifford, a kid that can do a lot, and he has a lot of weapons, and they came back on Elder when they just started no-huddling and zipping down the field and put some points up in a hurry. So have they adjusted since then? I don't know. The Elder game was they lost by 3. Elder was dominating most of it. St. X came back. LaSalle had a rough game last week, but if you're asking me for a pick, I'm taking the Bombers tonight.
All right, we are here at Lakota West High School. It's the annual Battle of Lakota. 4-3 Lakota East, 5-2 Lakota West. Playoff implications, bragging rights. Former colleagues, Rick Haynes, longtime coach at East, Tom Bolden, first-year coach at West. Figures to be an outstanding game. Similarities, not a lot of passes expected. Joe D., I'll start with you. Who wins this game tonight and why?
I'm a big intangibles guy, especially at this level, the high school level, the intangibles of who's ready to play, who's ready to win, who has more game motivation than the other. Lakota West, they understand what's happened the last 3 years. They've been outscored by Lakota East 92-14 the last 3 times they played against Lakota East. Tom Bolden's here. Tom Bolden can get a team ready to play in a big game as well as anybody in the tri-state. I'm going Lakota West, home field, intangibles of Tom Bolden, and also the motivation of what's happened the last 3 years.
All right, Scott, you're covering the game tonight. You can check out Scott's story on Cincinnati.com and tweets.
Oh, yeah.
Numerous tweets during the game.
Yeah,
to the
numerous
point where you're
tweets. I
going to
get
lose
carried
track
away.
of the game.
And
Right,
they've
but
got Coke and Mountain Dew up there, too. I might be tweeting like twice
there you
every
go.
60
so
seconds.
Who wins this one in your opinion?
Well, he gave the scores. If you look the last 2 years, it's 71-3. They've been wipeouts. And, 3 wins in a row. Rick Haynes is 4-6 total in his lifetime at Lakota East against Lakota West, but 3 in the last 3 years. Tom Bolden hasn't lost to Rick, but Tom Bolden hasn't lost to too many guys. The only guy to beat Tom Bolden in the GMC has been Jason Krause, who did it at Fairfield, did it at Middletown in 08. These two know one another. They coach with one another. There's no secret what's going to go on here. We're not going to see 30 passes total in this game. Mitch Bolden doesn't like the money Mitch. He doesn't throw too much. He might throw a little bit. He likes to run. Their guy is it Krajewski. I'm mispronouncing it probably. They've got 3 guys at running back that can tear up a lot of yards. Here's the key difference. Afari is kind of Lakota West guy. If you look at the records, if David Afari scores a rushing touchdown this year, Lakota West wins. I think Afari gets in the end zone, and I think Lakota West will win this one. And I like the intangibles also. You're here, the home field advantage and all that stuff. And Tom Bolden, you can't deny, is a heck of a coach.
No question. And he's done a very quick, amazing job here. And I'm going to lean a little. I think it's going to be close. I do. But I'm going to lean to West. Joe, I agree. The intangible, and I think one of the key intangibles, and this isn't taking anything away from Rick Haynes. He's an outstanding coach. But I think in this year one, on a night like tonight, the big games throughout his career at Coleraine, there's a reason why everybody thought when Kerry Combs left, how many year after year, this is it. And you're hearing that now. Mm-hmm. And Sean Cutright's got the Cardinals right there as well. But I just think the intangible is Tom Bolden.
And speaking of intangibles,
yes,
just listen to this place. It feels like we're at a college football game.
No, it does.
The band's going. The crowd is outstanding. It's a beautiful night for football. This feels like it should. East and West, rivalry football, all the layers that go with this game of the coaches knowing each other, the playoff implications. It feels fun to be here and be a big part of what is a big game.
I agree. And Scott, let me ask you, Cincinnati.com, your story, but you guys do a lot of stuff with high schools. What are some things that people should be paying particular attention to? Obviously, everything tonight.
Well, you look at the ramifications of how these games go because they're just huge games. It's a great week for games.
It is.
West and East, Anderson, Turpin, Elder, Winton Woods, St. X, LaSalle. Those are about as good as they come. There's a little nip in the air. The sun's going down. I got skyline chili coming through my nostrils. I can't sleep on Thursday because Friday's coming. I can't sleep Friday night because Saturday's coming for college games. I can sleep a little bit Saturday night because I know what's going to go on. But other than that, I like Friday, Saturday.
And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie, Joe. You make me stay up on Friday nights because I'm a sad old man who falls asleep early. Not when the final quarter's on. Tell everybody tonight the final quarter. What can we be looking for?
So what's really cool is about the 5 minutes before we go on the show, we pump up some music inside the Fox 19 Now Sports department to get ourselves excited because, it's late. It's 11:15, so we got to get going, and we got to have all that energy for us on that show tonight. 15 games at the minimum. All the big games. We're at this game. We're at the Elder Winton Woods game. We're at Covcath Highlands. We're at all the big games tonight. Extended highlights, helmet stickers, FQ Top 3. Make sure you follow us on Twitter because we like to think we're the most interactive high school football show in the tri-state.
And you are.
And we need people on Twitter to help us make that so.
All right. Well, thanks. We're getting ready to play the national anthem here, so I want to thank Eric, Jason, Brady, everybody from ESP Media. We appreciate everybody watching us this year. Time for the anthem. Enjoy the night of high school football. This has been Tailgate at the Showdown.
Please direct your attention to the field. for a bit of friendly competition between some of our East Side